Hi guys, welcome to Spool Performance and our brand new podcast, Spoolin Around. This is our first episode and we have a very interesting guest today for you guys. A lot of you already know him, big personality, one of our favorites, Hussain Boxwala.
Big personality?
You always have the biggest personality around, bro.
Oh my god. That's only
whenever you come around, they're like, oh, that's Hussain, here. I hear from a mile away.
It's only here because I'm loud. I come into okay. I've known Ajay when he was working out of his garage. Okay, this guy called me up. I was new to tuning at that time.
You didn't even start tuning at the time.
I was not tuning. You're right. I just had a Q50 that I was. You're right. I was just modifying my own Q50, and he reached out to a buddy of mine in California who ran like a big Facebook group page. And he was like, yo, do you know anybody in Houston? And so he told Ajay, call this guy. And he's like, yo, I got some fuel pumps to try. And I was like, oh, yeah, why not? And then I was stranded on the side of the road.
Well,
every day.
There's a lot missing.
Every day.
But
long story short, he was trying something out for the VR30 that didn't end up working, but it did end up working in a different way later. So yeah, I knew Ajay back when he had a bunch of aluminum parts just in his garage and his spare bedroom. So when I come in here, I act like I own the place. I don't I don't come through the front. I come through the back. I just scream. I'm like, where's Ajay? And I guess here I am loud and big, but our online personality is pretty quiet. We're not.
Yeah, it is.
We don't go around. We were talking about this right before the podcast. We don't go around like stirring up drama or talking shit about people or anything like that. It's easier without all that. So,
but your career, it's been very impressive, in a lot of aspects. Like, I never expected to see you here. And it was very quick. When I first met him, he didn't know jack about cars, like nothing. He didn't know what a fuel pump was, what an engine was.
This is just straight up. This is slander.
He thought the engine was inside the transmission or something.
I will use this as evidence in court. This is slander right here when I sue you.
But from there, he picked up all this stuff very quick. I guess it's the engineering background you have that helps you.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't know a lot. I knew about cars. I knew what a fuel pump was.
He is a rocket scientist, by the way, if y'all didn't know.
I mean, my degree is in aerospace engineering. It's the furthest thing from rocket science, I would say. But anyway, it's not the furthest thing, but it's not what you think it is.
Yeah, but engineering in itself,
Yeah.
I feel like it helps you, or it teaches you how to learn, is how I say it.
It teaches you a way of thinking, right? Yeah. So it was easy to pick up on the tuning side of things because, so people ask me all the time, what do you need to learn to tune, right? And you could do it with a high school degree if you have the right mind for it, right? You could do it with 10th grade algebra if you have the right mind for it. Because so there's two types of tuners, right?
Yeah, exactly what I was about to say.
Ajay and I talk about this all the time. There's two types of tuners. There's a type of tuner who goes in, gets the function document. If it's a German car, they get the German function document. They sit there, they translate it, they understand everything. And they're like, oh, I know everything about how this car works. But then when it comes to putting it into a tuning service, it's a hit or miss for them because they deep dive into it so much that sometimes they miss the bigger picture, which is, hey, we want to make this car go fast.
Well, in that sense, I would say there's 3 or 4 types of tuners.
Let's say 3. I know what you're talking about. Let's go with 3. Yeah. Then there's the other end of that, which is more timing, make car fast, boom, right? And that's I would say 95% of the tuners out there.
I call them the number tuners. They're actually very dangerous because
they don't care. They'll make a number just to make a number, right? They're like, I don't care that this is beyond the limits of this car. If it lasts for 1 pull on the dyno, I'm doing it, right? And that's where you find a lot of people that just have really high dyno numbers and then they have no street numbers, right? They don't have any cars performing consistently on the street. And that's the other side.
The best thing is actually somewhere in between. You cannot be a completely by the book guy that only works on first principles. You kind of also have to have some of that street knowledge to know what you can forge and what you cannot.
Yeah. So
sometimes there's an easier way to do things.
Yeah, and that's I like to think I'm the third category where I do look at function documents from time to time. I do look at OEM things to try and figure out and troubleshoot issues that people are having. But for your everyday car, I know my limits. I know the limits of the engine, and we push it to the limit of your specific motor and setup and everything. And that's where custom tuning excels, right?
And this is a big problem I face on the BMW side of things and the VR30 side of things. This is not a problem I have on Mercedes or Audis. When we come up with a new product and it has a different way of doing things, or if it has different logic in the ECU, explaining those products and teaching and educating the tuners on the BMW and VR30 platforms has been a lot harder than say AMGs and the Audis, because the AMG Audi tuners, they used to win all the function. That's the ecosystem. Like, there's no other way to tune them.
The barrier to entry is higher.
Yeah, exactly. There's no MHD. There's no BM3 that is dumbing things down for everyone.
Yeah.
So for them, the way of life is understanding the logic and doing it that way. And so when I'm telling them, hey, there's this new high pressure pump logic, this is how it works, they don't even listen to me. They go look at the function docs and they come back to me like, hey, what are the values I need to change? I know how it works.
Super easy for you at that point.
But this whole concept is alien to a lot of BMW and VR30 tuners,
I mean, look, I can't knock on it though, because without that low barrier to entry, I would have not started tuning, right? And so Ajay and I also talk about this a lot, where he's like, yo, man, why don't you just start tuning, AMGs and stuff on WinOS? And I'm like, listen, I have WinOS. I know how to use it, but as a business model, it doesn't make sense, right? Like, I could not. So to give you guys an idea of the volume that we do, outside of my BMW tuning and Audi and stuff like that we do solely VR30s, this year we are on track to tune 1,200 individual VR30s, right? And that's custom tunes. That's not including our OTS maps that we send out. That's just straight custom tunes.
Custom maps. That's fucking crazy.
Yeah, that's custom tunes, each being probably an average of like 5 to 10 revisions, right?
Okay.
Because it's varying setups. So stock turbos are like 4 or 5 revisions.
Yeah.
More complicated setups take longer. But I could not do that on WinOS. And I think any WinOS tuner will tell you the same thing. They would go crazy if they were trying to tune that. Even if you're like a wizard at WinOS, right? And you automate a lot of the stuff, you figure it out. It is just not possible, or at least I don't think it's possible to do that. So when I look at, what platforms do I want to get into, yeah, it would be cool to say that I tune, AMGs and stuff, and I'd love to maybe one or two, when I get into it. But like, as a business model, it's not scalable for me.
Yeah, I mean, as a car, it's the same thing, right? Like, it's the same
as
engine.
A car,
everyone uses a Bosch ECU these days.
Yeah, exactly.
But there is no service that's actually simplifying things and making it scalable on those platforms. And either you have to build your own software, or you have to rely on all these tools, which is crazy.
And I'll happily say I'm not smart enough to build my own software. I'm not at that point where I'm going to do it.
Another thing with the Mercedes and Audi clientele is also they are a little bit more older and reserved in terms of demographics. So acceptance for a new tuner is very rare in those communities.
Yes.
Like, unless you brought a bunch of cars and you proved it out and you started doing good for, let's say, a year, not even 6 months, then people will start accepting you, you know? So especially in the AMG community, it's on lockdown. Like, there's maybe 3 or 4 big companies that do AMG tunes, and are successful. Like, I can count it on one hand. So
yeah, I don't even know them. So
that's
there's probably not a lot.
Yeah, it's also one of the reasons we've been able to do a lot of AMG products, because we had support from these companies. Otherwise, we would never be able to break into.
Yeah, I think people don't really know you. You've told me this. I'm sure it's still true. You do way more on the AMG side in terms of sales than you do BMWs and VR30s. So a lot of times I'll tell Ajay about, like, hey, do this for the VR30. He's like, bro, I don't have time. In the same way that I would say that for an AMG tune, where I'd be like, bro, I don't have time to do this because I have VR30s. He's the opposite. He's like, I make so much money on this. Why? Like, it's not that you don't want to. I mean, you grow your team, but you have
the exception, because we started on 335s, like the M54s.
Yeah, but that was because you innovated the industry. You were the only person. Is it still you're the only person to ever make a high pressure pump for the N54? Did anybody come in after and copy your design?
It's not really a pump. There is other solutions. Like, another competitor had a belt based overdrive before we even started, but the gear based was one of our innovations. But again, as the cars get older, the timing chains get weak, and then people put them on older timing chains and the guides break. So there's things associated with it too. But N54s is where we started, and is always close to our heart, And that's why I make this big mistake of buying 5-6 BMWs for development. And it really doesn't make a lot of sense from a business point for us, because if we invest that time into the Mercedes, Audi platforms, the payoff is incredible compared to the BMWs.
Do you do a lot of Audi stuff though? I know you do the Lambo motors. You do the EA825s, but you don't do anything other than the EA825.
4.0 TFSIs.
Yeah, that's what we're focusing on. EA825. Yeah. Look at that. I knew something he didn't.
comes in a lot of cars too, you know.
It does, yeah.
It's like
it's like the N63 for the BMWs, right? It's in a lot of stuff, but
we just started getting into the Porsches too, the 992s. We just have our.
I saw one, yeah.
Yeah, we have a development car here, and a lot of interest from Dubai.
That makes sense.
Yeah,
yeah.
So yeah, Hussain has also been testing our new S58.
Oh yeah, we just finished
turbos,
up. Yeah,
the ones you see here, pretty much.
Yeah, we just finished those up. We made a video about it. Our M4, we kept it at 900. I told Ajay's like, bro, do 1,000. I'm like, man, I am not doing 1,000 on a stock block. Like, I don't care for that. Like I said, I don't care for the clout. I don't care for like the, oh my God, Racebox did it, right?
Yeah.
At the end of the day, if I made 1,000, I would have turned it down right off the dyno, and that's just not truthful to my customers. Or I would have made 1,000, and maybe it would have lasted, you know, for a year or however long. But
no,
I'm not taking that chance.
When
on
I brought up the 1,000, you know, in the back of my head, I was like, oh, other people have done it on cars,
but they're all single turbos.
But they are all single turbos, yes.
Yeah, you want to explain that a little bit? You will explain it better than I do. People ask me like, oh, well, why can't you do it on twin turbos, right?
Well, it's all about where your boost comes in, right? Like, torque and power, they're related with a simple equation. And it's essentially, with the equation, it's essentially the same thing that crosses over at 50 to 52 RPM. So when you have boost before that 5,000 RPM, you would end up making more torque. So since single turbos spool later, naturally, you're making less torque and more power in those power bands. But these things spool like what? These spooled at 3,500 or something?
These spool like stocks. We were driving it around yesterday. So we made a 700 horsepower map, which is basically like, so that's on E 700 horsepower. Yeah. So we tried to keep it like a stock turbo type map, right? And it basically feels like a stock turbo until 6,000. And then it just keeps carrying, whereas the stock turbo starts to die off a little bit, right? Yeah. So the spool characteristics of them are great. You don't feel any lag on the street. That's
what our main goal with these were, because we have our single turbo kits. We have our large frame twins that are set up for 15 to 1800 crank. So we wanted something smaller that's cheaper, easier to install, and easier to tune.
Way easier to install, and it looks, you can't tell. Like in the engine bay, you cannot tell. I mean, you made it work with my Mishimoto intakes.
Yeah, and unless you have these painted like these, like, you can't tell. It looks like a stock turbo. That's one thing we did too. Like, we kept the exact shape, blew it up, like you mentioned in your video. Yeah. Even the compressor wheel profile, we kept it same because I think BMW did a really good job with this one.
I mean, yeah, the S58 is a pleasure to drive in stock form. So yeah, it would, it would suck to lose some of those characteristics.
We thought about putting in some Garrett wheels and stuff, and I was like, let me just make the stock wheel bigger and see how it works. And actually, it does pretty good.
On my video, I mentioned, I didn't know, but Chidong was like, yo, tell them about the turbos. I'm like, man, I don't know. Ajay told me to put these turbos on. I'm like, okay, we'll make power with them, right? I know from the data side of things, like what I see is, all right, we're making X amount of boost at this wastegate duty, blah, 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 right? And we're making X amount of power, but I don't know the specifics on the turbo. So I said they're close to a 550. Is that correct in terms of wheel sizing?
I would say more geared towards the 660s because
so a little bit bigger than
airflow-wise, they'll be rated to about 1,100 crank. So
close. It's like between a 550 and a
1150 crank. So 1,000 horsepower would be max effort on these turbos. Yes.
Yeah, and I think the data agrees with that. I mean, the 900 in this heat was very difficult, which starts to tell you that you're falling off of the efficiency, right?
Yeah, we're at 2,700 EA right now, like when you were testing and stuff.
Yeah, it's not even that. It's like, well, that's the other thing I talked about, and I talk about this a lot recently because I get a lot of people telling me this. You get the guys who live at elevation, but it's like 50 degrees outside or 40 degrees, and they have a big like 72, 75, and they're like, I'd be so much faster at sea level. No, the fuck you wouldn't. No. Sorry, I wasn't supposed to cuss. No, you wouldn't.
Houston's humidity is crazy.
Yeah, that 72, 75 is going to overcome the actual altitude, and it'll compress the air, but it's never going to overcome the heat, unless you have some crazy type of way to get the heat up. But even then,
molecule displacing oxygen.
Yeah, and you have humidity, so it's not the same. So when I saw 900, when I saw the car, like, so we made the turbos were great. I mean, so if you watch our video, I don't even know how many of our like followers cross over other than VR30 guys, but this might be a lot of people like, who the hell is Hussain? But anyway, I used to be Ajay's neighbor when he was at his old location. For sure. Yeah. I'm trying. Yeah, I mean, we have. Again, we don't like go around saying all this stuff, but we have. I'm pretty sure we have the fastest Gen 1. He's a built motor running 3s, 60 to 130.
I would say you guys are more into that street car market. You guys
We're not. Yeah, we don't
are
go.
not the track guys.
None of my customers want to run at the track,
Yeah.
man. You know why? Because my customers don't have money. Quite frankly, they don't have money to replace axles and drivetrain components when they break.
That's kind of where I'm trying to position us too. We're not really worried about, or we're not into that track competition kind of clientele and products.
Yeah.
What we want to make is fast street cars that people can enjoy.
And
that's our main focus.
I mean, that's the beauty of why we got into it. I mean, you got into it because you liked having a fast street car.
Yeah, true. Yes.
I got into it because I wanted a fast street car, right? Like, and we kind of, it's a very, very apt, the People's Performance Podcast. I mean,
that was our motto.
Yeah, that's nice branding. I mean, I don't know how people are going to feel about it. I mean, everyone always gets dramatic and like, oh, what are you trying to say? I don't think you're targeting this at anyone. You're just saying like, you are doing this for the average dude who's just like, yo, I put pumps on my car, I'm running it on the street, right? Like,
that's also one of the reasons we kind of push more DI stuff, because
it's more reasonable for most people.
Yes.
Yeah.
You're not dealing with extra ECUs, extra tuning. It's very straightforward. But again, it's been a challenge to get tuners to accept and understand that it's actually easier and maintenance free to make a good street car with the DI setup.
More than that, I think the problem is a lot of people see that you have DI upgrades and they think, oh, I'm going to be as fast as a PI car, right? Like we've had this discussion. We have customers who buy everything from you and they're like adamant, no, I want to stay DI. I'm like, okay, yeah, let's do DI, right? And then they're like, why can't I blend full E85 and make this power? I'm like, you're still going to run out of fuel.
Like you can't overcome physics, right? Like unless you have a really big injector, you have a window limitation, like injection window limitation that PI doesn't have.
Exactly.
You can spray into all 4 strokes on PI. We cannot do it on DI.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we have things in the work, but also at the same time, I'm like, how much are we going to invest to make this into a track car? Like, do we even want to do that? Like, developing injectors and bigger pumps.
Yeah.
It starts causing other load issues.
And I think that's where your Mercedes market really helps you because Mercedes guys are not trying to add reflex to their cars.
Yes.
There's no one outside of like BMWs and like now VR30s because some dudes were like, so okay, I had a customer who's like, why can't I make a B58 file work on my reflex on my VR30? I'm like, well, let me take a look. And then you change up the crank signal, the triggers and all that, and it works as a batch fire, right?
Yeah.
So we've got guys doing that. I know AMS is working with Ecutech to get reflex integrated and all this. That's great.
No, the integration is what makes it more interesting.
Yeah, where it's truly sequential and not just a batch fire. And so that doesn't exist for anyone else, right? And so Mercedes guys are going to be like, well, yeah, why would we not just do a DI upgrade?
These V8s, they get to 1100 horsepower on DI. So how much more are you going to push those
cars,
They're also expensive motors to break. Yep. Like AMG M177 retails for $57,000 just for the motor,
Yeah.
So people also don't want to push it into like track car territory. So that's also why we have a lot of customers and sales on that.
It's also, to your point, it's less worry when you're running DI. You're maintaining all of the stock safeties, right? Correct. Like the DME is still going to shut off a cylinder when it detects a misfire, right? On PI, unless you have like an integrated solution like Ecutech or now MHD Plus. Prior to that, if you were running reflex, or even now on BM3, if you're running reflex and you have a misfire in a cylinder where one of your DI injectors goes out, it's either overspraying, not spraying, whatever, PI is going to continue spraying in that cylinder.
I thought they fixed it with some integration things.
No? They have the Rev 2, Rev 3, but I think that's only out it's in beta testing still. Okay. So yeah, when that comes out, sure. And
BM3 is also releasing their stuff, so
that's what I'm saying. I'm interested to see what their board's going to look like too. I know I have a lot of customers who are waiting on that.
I heard they're using FlexRay, which technically should be faster as well, right? I mean,
you know about that? I don't know.
I mean, I don't know too much about it, but FlexRay is a newer technology, so I'm assuming it should be.
Should be, yeah. I mean, but how is CAN bus too slow? Like, what's the reason to go?
You're right.
That's what I'm wondering. Like, what's the reason to go faster?
We're talking about slow in terms of the numbers changing, right? But when you're getting into those millisecond, intervals, I don't know how fast it is. Like 500 kbps baud rate. I don't know.
Yeah. But it's still going to be interesting to see. It's nice to see that the BMW's platform gets so much development. Like on a VR30 side, I wish we had that much,
the support only came after the Supras.
Yeah.
You think about it.
That's true, yeah. And the VR30, if the Z had been, a lot of people were like, oh, the Z is going to be it. The Z is going to make sure that we get propelled like the Supra.
The Z didn't change the game much.
The Z sucks. Okay, bro, I say this on our videos
I think
too.
the Q60 looks a lot better than XE too.
I think the Q60 front looks a lot better. The rear 3/4 of the Z is very nice. It's a retro style with a good setup. It is small. It is a small car though, right? It's heavy, but it's a small like physical shape. But like with the right wheel setup, the right suspension, it looks really nice. I think it's a pretty car. But I think a lot of people were expecting companies to jump on the Z, and I think a lot of companies tried, and then they realized, hey, there's a reason there's only 3 VR30 tuners that are worth mentioning at all, right?
What is the reason?
They're hard to tune, and this is something that's going to piss off a lot of your viewers, I'm sure, and it's going to piss off some BMW tuners too. But like when I started tuning B58s, all these BMW guys were like, "Oh, Nissan guys can't tune a B58. We're so much smarter. We have our function docks." And I'm like, "Okay, that's great. Good for you." I would rather tune a B58 any day of the week than a VR30 if I was starting out again.
What ECU does the VR30s come with? I think that's where the big difference
It uses
is.
a Hitachi ECU.
Okay, makes sense.
And if you know anything about Hitachi pumps, everything Hitachi makes is garbage. Okay? The VR30 ECU does not have the same kind of logic that a Bosch DME has.
No, Bosch has everything on lockdown.
Bosch is amazing in that regard. And so because of that, you can be really bad at tuning and just bump up a bunch of load limits, bump up the boost. Mm-hmm. And as long as you keep timing somewhat safe, you'll make a fast B58. Real talk. Like that's what it comes down. It might not be consistent, but you'll get those dyno numbers that you want. You'll get a couple of those street pulls that you want, right?
You're right. Like Bosch's throttle manipulation and safety stuff is crazy. You hit a load limiter, it doesn't feel like, the car's about to die.
Yeah, that's it. Exactly.
Another reason why there's so many more blown VR30s than blown B58s. I mean, B58s do blow up, don't get me wrong, but if you look at the number comparison, I think VR30s blow up a lot.
Yeah, VR30s because there's poor ECU management, right?
Yeah,
for example, the Hitachi ECU does not shut off an injector if it detects a misfire. It'll just keep dumping. I mean, you've seen it. We used back in the day, we used to have cars pull in to your shop, to the Infinity dealers, just dumping ethanol out the tailpipes because they popped an injector. And it would just spray continuously, right? It never shuts it off. In the same way, if an injector fails closed, it still doesn't shut off the cylinder. If a spark plug has a misfire, continues to fire, right? There's no safeties like that. There's not even a fuel cut safety where, like on a B58. So I get this a lot when VR30 guys, they sell their Q, they're done with it, they did everything they wanted, they get a B58, and they buy into the hype where everyone's like, oh yeah, E50, stage 2 plus, that's all you need. They overblend, they underblend. Their TU pump is just bad from factory, which happens quite a bit. There's weaker TU pumps that come in, right, on certain cars. And they get that really hard fuel cut, like, oh my God, I blew my car up. Because it's loud, it jerks you forward, it kicks you out, it limps the car, and it's a big-ass backfire. Mm-hmm. But that is way safer than what VR30s do. Where
one of the best safeties I've ever seen is on the Mercedes M8017s.
What do they do?
It's crazy. It's like you hit a wall. Full injection cutoff anytime.
It just slams you forward, right?
Slams you forward.
Yeah.
Saves the motor. I almost never see an engine blow up.
VR30 has nothing like that.
Like, in my entire 5-6 years of dealing with these V8s, the M177, 778 V8s, I think I've seen maybe 1-2 engines blow up. And one of them, the cylinder melted because it was on 93, and the tuners turned off a lot of safeties and ran it very lean. You can't even blame it on the engine management system because he
just turned off
all
the safeties.
CS, The other one, I forgot. Oh, it actually was a rod failure, and it was an isolated rod failure, and I think it was some kind of manufacturing defect. But engine management is so good, you have to try to blow up these motors. Yeah,
and that's pretty true of B58s too. I mean, you can still turn off, like you said. There's some people that just run them lean, and there's tuners that will literally say, well, BMW runs it at lambda equals 1, so why shouldn't I?
Yeah, not all the time.
It's like, you're doubling the boost. You can't run it. Anyway, that's a whole other thing. We said we wouldn't talk shit, but VR30s don't have that. It's a 200 bar fuel system, right? And it can drop down to 70 bar, and it'll keep firing and keep running, and your injection window's expanded, it's leaning out, and it just keeps going, and you're like, there's no safety there, right? And the crazy thing is, I've seen cars do a full, like they start off because they're below a half tank, their low pressure pump cuts out on them, and it continues to, the car has no safety, so it keeps going. And first gear has full fuel pressure, second, third, fourth have like no fuel pressure, like they'll be down to like 70 bar. They'll do a full pull running at like 15 or sometimes worse AFR.
Yeah, the car doesn't cut off at all.
Yeah, but the motor survives, and I'm like, you are probably the luckiest person I know, right? Because it shouldn't. There's no reason that it should have had, that much boost. And this is like upgraded turbos and everything. So yeah, back to what I was saying. B58s are way easier to tune.
Okay.
I will say I had trouble with them in the start, but that's just because I was looking at it from a VR30 perspective, right? But the VR30, if you just look at how many quality tuners there are on either platform, and if you look at all these people that tune B58s and used to clown us as like Nissan tuners who can't tune a goddamn single VR30, there's so many of them that bought a Nissan Z, did nothing with it, and sold it and said, "Oh, the platform's trash." No, you just didn't do anything with it, right? Like if that was the case, we wouldn't have stock turbo VR30s that are beating stock turbo B58s.
I think it's about spending the time and learning the way that platform works.
I'm not here to say that either way. Like if it's not a good business move, it's not. But then don't talk shit when you don't know what you're talking about. Right. And that's my number one problem is like we get so many people who, and it's not even customers. Customers don't care.
It's on all fronts, even on the hardware side, there's always going to be people that do not understand how things work.
Yeah, it's like, oh, you only do Nissan, stay in your field. It's like, bro, people like you are the reason I started tuning. Right. So it's one of those things where I didn't used to talk about this. And honestly, you're lucky you got me in the morning when I'm not a morning person. Chidong's not here to censor me out because otherwise he doesn't let me say this stuff on our videos.
We'll bleep some stuff out if you want.
No, I mean it's one of those things where it's like I have the numbers to back it up.
No, yeah.
I don't have like.
Weren't you like one of the biggest sellers of EcuTech or something last year?
Yeah, we're the biggest individual EcuTech dealer, which means we move a crap ton of product.
Yeah, that comes back to our point that there is a bigger market of people who want to just enjoy their cars a little bit more.
Yeah, and people who want customer service.
Yes, exactly.
Customer service is key. Like that will kill you in this business. And it amazes me that there's so many people that don't understand
That's one of the biggest problems in this industry. Like, I don't know how American tuning is. In European tuning, everywhere. Even for us, like, we work closely with a lot of tuners. But some of our development projects get extended like weeks, months, because we can't coordinate times between the tuner and there's no communication. That's another problem. Communication is very bad with a lot of tuners on these platforms.
Well, like, what I say to that is a lot of people that get into the performance industry are really good car enthusiasts. They're very intelligent people. They are not good businessmen. Yeah. Right? And you can't have, you can't have one without the other.
I don't think we're great business owners too.
If we were good business owners, we'd probably be a lot more shrewd with our customers, to be quite honest.
Yeah.
Right? But I think we both value customer service more than anything.
No, we do. Like that's one of our key focuses, right? Like do right by our customers. Yeah. I don't you should never think of something as a quick money grab, Like you always think about the long term. Like you do right by customers, deliver good products. It'll work out in the long run, which I've seen happen to myself, right? Like we've tried to honor that code and we've grown at a pretty fast rate. And I'm grateful to everyone for that.
Dude, the fact that we are here, I met you in 2018, like mid 2018, late 2018, right? The fact that we are sitting here 6 years later in your 20,000 square foot shop with however many turbos that is, you have a 5-axis machine in the back. You've got your shop is filled with supercars that like you and I probably like, back in the day were like, oh, that'd be super cool, right?
Yeah.
Ajay's living the dream that he talked to me about 6 years ago, right?
No, we never imagined we would
you
be
blew
sitting
up, bro.
in these cars.
That's fantastic. I remember when you first bought the Eurocharged franchise out on Britmore, where I ended up getting a shop in the front area of that. We're still there. And I used to use your dyno, and I'm like, yo,
he started on that dyno.
Yeah. I learned to tune on his dyno, and I was like, this is so cool, right? And to see it even here, like the amount of products you have, and it's like people don't understand how much money you have into your machines in the back.
I was about to say, like, it's 6 years, we've grown so much, but we're still at a point where we're continuously reinvesting the whole thing back in the business, right?
Yeah.
I mean, we're buying a lot of development cars, machines.
Technically, for our businesses, those are still technically business expenses because what we do is we develop performance tunes and performance parts for those platforms. I like
my cars. I bought a couple of nice cars, but even those are from product development standpoint.
Do you ever wish? I find myself feeling this all the time. Where like I wish I just had a really high paying job, a 9 to 5 or whatever,
yes.
and I could just enjoy my car like
Sometimes,
I used to
yes.
enjoy. Like I have a lot of cool cars now. I have never had the joy in any of these because they're business cars that I had in my Q50 when it was like stock turbo making like 490 horsepower. Okay, that car in my mind will always be my most favorite car because it was like. It was stress-free and pure enjoyment.
That's my 335, my old N54.
Yeah, you like reminisce about
even
that,
with all,
right?
Yeah, even with all the problems, that's still one of my most favorite cars. Like, we have those GTRs and stuff. Hasn't been driven in a year almost.
Yeah, I remember when you first got your first
on the
GTR.
dyno and back, that's it, yeah.
Yeah, you had that red GTR, right? Was that your first one?
We're talking about AMG GTR, but not into Nissans. Or I'm not into Nissans.
I'm not into Nissan GTRs either. That's a whole other rant I can go on. But yeah, when you were so excited about that, right?
Yeah,
I remember it was like I was like, oh shit, Ajay got an AMG GTR. God damn, he's making money, right? And like now looking at it this many years later, it's like we have cool cars. Like I've driven.
But we don't have time to do anything with them.
My M4 on paper is probably the most fun car I've ever had, and I don't even want to drive it half the time, man. I'm like, I'm just gonna go.
I feel you. It's just
I got electric cars, so I could try and enjoy something again and just beat on it and not care, right?
Cancel this guy.
Yo, listen,
electric cars.
Listen, man. There is
right now. No more Racebox.
People, in performance industry, right? Everyone's like, oh, how could you ever talk about it? Listen, there is a time and place.
Switchbox, not Racebox.
There is a time and place for electric cars. I've had my RS e-tron GT for a year. I didn't buy it because I'm not stupid. I'm not going to buy an electric car and take like a 75% hit on equity, right? I leased it.
Much better, but okay.
I got a great lease deal on it, so whatever. But it's been a great deal. I've never had a better daily driver. I don't worry about anything. I hop in, I floor it. It runs a 10.9. I don't have to do anything for it,
I see what you're saying. But a lot of manufacturers also backtracking on full electric cars.
I mean, because they're a maintenance nightmare. There's a maintenance nightmare. There's recalls. There's the build quality outside of the recalls on the Audi e-trons is actually really nice. It's not like a Tesla where you have all these problems.
The recalls are the problem. Of customers,
they're losing a lot of money on recalls.
A lot of my customers, Mercedes customers, will upgrade to an EQS.
Those are a nightmare.
$150,000, $180,000 car, and it sits at the dealership.
Yeah.
Like months at a time.
Yeah, my cousin, my cousin and my uncle in Detroit, they got like an EQS, whatever the AMG EQS as on a lease deal, right?
I don't know how you call it an AMG when it's not a V8, but okay.
They tell me like they're never buying another Benz just because they're bad experience with the EQS.
Yes.
And they're like you said, it's been in the shop for 6 months, and the dealer's like we have nothing to do. We have no parts for it. It's like how do you go ahead and push out all these cars and not have any parts for when something goes bad?
Didn't anticipate it breaking.
Audi's been good about it. Audi's recalls are fixed very quick. They have the parts on hand. They get them done. I didn't wait longer than like 4 days for any of the recalls on any of my cars.
At the end of the day, Volkswagen has a much bigger, better supply chain. So
it does.
It makes sense why they would be able to resolve it fast.
What did we even start? We started on the turbos that we were talking about, how they're closer to 660s.
So how was it to tune? I mean, that was one of the biggest things we focused on. Like we wanted the
This is by far across all the platforms I don't mean this lightly. This is up there with the Z1 turbos on the VR30 for me, where the wastegate control is perfect. Like it works like you want it to. So when I tune cars, especially B58s that have turbos that are internally gated, it is a constant battle of talking to the customer and being like, please recalibrate your wastegates. Please recalibrate the arm. Did you check this? Check the stop position. It's not working.
You're one of the reasons I make these wastegates so big. Because you keep coming here and saying, hey, bro, can we do an external gate?
Yeah.
I can't do internal gates. I'm like, what are you even talking about? Internal gates are fine.
Yeah, but you didn't know the issue on the tuning side of things until I explained it to you. And now with this, it worked out.
Yeah, like, it's just because the gates are not sized right.
Bro, the fact that I can run these on... I mean, the fact that I can make whatever horsepower I want. We made 500 horsepower on the first pull.
Okay.
I could give a customer a 500 horsepower map on these turbos, and it wouldn't have boost creep.
Yeah.
But these turbos are capable of 1,000, right? That's not true of any other of these internally gated turbos on the B58 that I know of. We're talking S58, but same tuning strategy, B58, S58, right? I don't know of anyone that's like that. VR30s, also outside of the Z1, there is not a single internally gated turbo upgrade that does well on 93 at low boost levels. The Z1 lets me make stock power.
I've heard very good things about the Z1.
These let me make stock power. It's fantastic.
Yes. Would you go with bigger wheels? That's an input
You
I would
you and
take
I
from
talked
you.
about this,
Yeah.
right? I don't know if you would, because at that point you should just go single. I think you'll have customers that want to do
Yes,
it,
another
who want to squeeze that extra. But like, how much more do you want on a stock motor S58 than 950?
I was about to get there. Yeah.
Right? Like, there's
we're
no
getting to the
market
motor's
for it.
limit because, just like you said, I wanted you to make 1,000 and you stopped at 900. So is there really a point? Because
Yeah,
again,
because if you're gonna build the motor, you might as well just do a big ass single turbo.
and again, the target is not someone who wants to go to the track and lay down numbers. It's really
Daily
for people
drivability.
who want to enjoy their cars on the street.
Yeah, and I'm sure I have not personally driven a single turbo S58. I'm sure they drive nicely, but coming from the VR30, where even going from the stock, the little tiny baby blowers to a big Z1 turbo, right? Not blower, baby turbos to a big Z1 turbo introduces lag on the low end. These do not, and that was what was most impressive for me.
I think I saw the dyno graph and it shifted maybe 500 RPMs or something like that.
It was like 500 RPMs, but it's also because we're not starting in at the same point and we're not introducing timing in the same way.
Yeah.
Like, we redid the entire map. It wasn't just the boost curve.
Those were the earlier graphs I saw.
Yeah, no, but so what I wanted to say is we could have made it hit the same power. Like, I could have tracked a stock. If I really wanted to, I could have tracked a stock turbo graph and then just kept it running up top.
But we
shifted the whole thing because right? Like, it's just something for longevity of the car.
Yeah.
So, and that's the other thing with twin turbos. I mean, once these spool though, they're going. Like, I can control boost. It's not that I can't, but they make torque very, very easily up top, right? Which is why when I first that's what I was saying. So we made 500, then we made 630 or 640 on 93, and I left it there. Could have turned it up if I wanted.
That's good numbers for 93, actually.
Yeah, if I wanted to, in a 110 degree engine, 110 degree dyno room, it was good numbers. I could have turned it up. I could have probably gone to whatever.
The AMG V8s cannot do this kind of numbers.
On 93,
which
really?
is crazy.
But are they high compression AMG V8s?
They are.
How high?
And I don't know the back of my head, but it might be 10.2 or 11.
Yeah, so about the same as an
10.2.
S58.
Yeah, it's very similar.
That's surprising that they don't.
Actually,
yeah.
Because even with bigger turbos, they usually need some E to get to those power levels. Like 650, you would need to splash some E in there. I
mean, if I wanted to go higher than 640 on 93 on these cars, I would have just said no. Like, and that's where I talk about, like, I don't push these cars harder than I feel comfortable on whatever gas or whatever they're using. So we made 640, and then we just tossed in E and added like 2 degrees of timing, and at the same boost level on E, it made 700.
Yeah.
Right? And I'm like, that's fantastic.
Cooling down that gas.
Yeah. And then it made 800 very easily. It made 850 very easily. And then above 850 is where I started seeing diminishing returns.
Oh, you started slipping the trans. We totally forgot about that.
Well, no, yeah. So we'll get to that. So above 850, we started seeing diminishing returns, right? And I'm like, okay, we're having to add more boost to get, a little extra 10 horsepower, 20 horsepower. And that's when you start to know, like, all right, we're falling out of efficiency, which also matters because it's hot as hell in Houston right now.
Wait, that was not falling out of efficiency though.
No.
Yeah.
It didn't slip at 850.
No, it
had
slipped
that
at 900. The
yes.
Vanos issue.
Yeah.
It was not the turbos.
Yeah, Vanos. Yes, you're right. The Vanos started drifting, so we bumped up oil pressure, brought it back, and then we made 897.
That's a big difference. Like 40 horsepower you lost from just Vanos.
Well, we turned up boost too, but we made 897 at about 41 pounds, right? And then we're like, all right, let's just hit 900, call it a day. Every run after 897, he's making less. And I'm like, what the hell is going on? And then we finally, on the dyno, the RPM was going crazy, like, wow, and we're like, oh, okay, we slipped the trans. So we're like, all right, let's go. I didn't think, okay, tell me this. I thought the S58 came with an HP 70.
It's HP 76. So
why the heck is it slipping at 700 wheel torque?
You made only 700 torque?
I kept torque down low. That's what I'm saying.
Burnt. A clutches was burnt. The D clutch was burnt. The C and E had heat spots.
So, okay, how come an HP 76 in an M4 slips at 740? We made 740, okay?
Okay.
How come it slips at 740? Yeah, 740 torque. But what don't Hellcats handle way more on a stock trans?
Hellcats have a 90. It's an HP 90.
Oh, they have an HP 90. What other cars have an HP 76 that are not BMWs?
A lot of Audis come with 76s, the new ones. I think the Urus gets a 90. I know that. What else comes to the 76?
Actually, that's a good point.
The Aston Martin Vantage comes with
So
76?
the EA 824 and 825s. 824 came with a HP51 with like HP70 internals.
Okay.
Because Audi like to make the same housing for all their cars, so it's easy. Because an A6 and an an A7 and an R7 share the same chassis.
Okay.
They come with an A7 and R7 on the C7, C7.5 are the same chassis, but one comes with an HP51 and the other is an R7, making probably double the output, right? So they beef up the 51 internals. Okay. But then the new EA 825s all come with an HP76. But to that point, the HP51 and an R7 holds 700 wheel torque all day, holds 750 all day. So why is an HP76 and an M3, M4 slipping at 740?
You might have gotten a bad unit, or
maybe
it's the way the torque is coming in.
Maybe yeah.
That low end torque
but
is
no,
what's
the
killing it.
R7's coming hard.
Yeah.
I don't know. Anyway, it slipped, so we had Ajay build the trans. We put it back on the dyno. We made 900, and I was like, I'm not like.
You're not going further.
I told him originally, I'm gonna go for 950. And it just didn't feel right to me to push. Like sometimes you just know, like the car, when you've dynoed enough cars and you've been in enough cars and tuned them, you know when the car is like just not wanting it anymore, right? Yeah. Like when the car's happily making 850, like we're seeing big ass increases in power, it's good. And then you're like struggling to make, like you're really having to fine tune stuff for that extra 10, 20 horsepower. It's when I'm like, okay, let's leave the car at 900. It's still fast. It's still gonna run a 4 on 60 to 130 on the street, which was our goal with these turbos, right? So we left it at that. Maybe we'll go for 950 if one day I just want to do it. But
maybe do that chiller, but again,
we could do the chiller. It doesn't solve the problem. Yeah, you're still in Houston.
You're gonna actually make more torque. No, it doesn't solve your problem of keeping the car safe.
It doesn't.
That's the problem.
Yeah, so we'll probably leave it there. The turbos were great.
That's good to hear. Yeah,
I look forward to you selling them so we can tune more of them, because these, honestly, you could pair these up with an OTS tune and they would run just fine. Like I didn't get to try it on mine, but I'd be curious to see how it does on an OTS tune. Like just toss these on a car, put an OTS stage 2, and just see how it works.
See, this is one of the best things I like about testing with the Racebox guys. They're very, very meticulous in how they go about with this. You know, like I think I have probably Sam at Project Gamma does similar stuff, but I've not seen a lot of people who go step by step and document everything, you know? And even I don't do that. Like, I'm guilty of this too. I'm most of the time in my head. And sometimes I end up doing the same thing 2 or 3 times because, you know, I am not as organized as you. Which is great to see how you guys do the testing, to be honest.
Yeah, I'm lucky in that my team is very much like I am, right? And so they all want to do the same. Like, they're all excited to see the step-by-step progress.
Documenting everything too.
Yeah. So, but yeah, I mean, it makes it easier for people. Our whole idea was, if we're gonna do this, we want people to know what step they can stop. And not everyone wants to make 900.
And put it on YouTube too. You guys should go and watch a lot of these.
Yeah, they're a little long. We're still getting into our groove of like what works on YouTube. Some of our videos are very long. Some of them are 20 minutes.
You lose interest after a while, and you miss all the good parts because
you lost interest. Yeah, but then that's the thing. The people who want to see the good parts will probably go. I think what I really should do is have Alex start making shorts of our YouTube.
40 minutes is a long time.
Dude, I get bored in our videos sometimes. I'm watching, I'm like, man, I don't want to watch myself anymore, you know?
Or maybe you can drop the big video and then cut down some of the stuff.
We should do some shorts.
10-minute.
Yeah.
Shorts, I don't really like the shorts because it's too short on YouTube.
We do a condensed version.
Yeah, like do a 5-10 minute version.
We should do a condensed version, especially about these, because the journey, you know, when we're done, I'll have Alex make a clip or like a condensed version of the journey of the M4 from start to finish. And that's what we can do. We can show all the different power levels.
Like, hey, I looked at your video, but
you didn't talk about the turbos.
Yeah,
I'm like, bro, go to this.
About anything because
18 minutes in, I think
I didn't skip through it because it was a long ass video.
Yeah.
But the transmission stuff is also getting ready. We were doing these prototype testing still. It's been 2-3 months of testing the 8HP75 stuff. So
you were saying about how we documented. Yeah, we should do like a 10-minute condensed version. I think that would serve a lot of people. But yeah, the whole purpose of everything we do is always, you know, not everyone wants to make 900 on their car. Just like on a VR30, not all of our customers want 800 on a stock block. They don't want 750 on a stock block. They're happy with 700. We like to show people what you can do to get there. Yeah. And the S58, man, like I love everything about it.
It's a great platform.
It is.
The right power levels.
Yeah, I'm so glad you made these turbos too, because there are people out there that don't. I have a lot of customers like, yo, man, I want to go the next step.
I got a lot of requests for a turbo like this.
Yeah, that's just stock placement, drop in, call it a day. And, we talked about this. A lot of countries outside of the US have really strict laws on modification. Dubai is a big market for you, for Mercedes and all that. This is great for those guys. Don't paint those. Toss them in when the cops inspect the car.
Paint will be optional. Whoever wants to get it painted.
Because they'll literally, like, if you go to a meet in Dubai, the cops will come. They'll pop the hoods and they'll look at it, and they have like if the car is specified as a twin turbo, and they see a big single, impound it, and they'll fine it or destroy the car or whatever.
It's becoming a crazy place. Comes to that.
Yeah, outside here in Texas.
But we're also going to launch these at a very, very aggressive price point. Like,
you want to say the price point? Have you decided? The price you told me was really good.
It'll have a 3 in front of it, so
that's insanely cheap. Yeah, that's cheaper than VR30 twin turbo upgrades, which blows my mind. Yeah. We pay, customers pay $45 or $499, $4,999, $5,000 for Z1 turbos. On a VR30, and you're already saying it's gonna be cheaper.
We do really think it's a great solution for a street car, and we want to put them as much out there as possible.
I mean, dude, 900.
We also consider this a brand building exercise in sorts. We're not looking at total profits on this project. Which is why we're going to come in at that price for sure. And
it'll be backed by your lifetime warranty. Right.
Like anything.
Any issue, you're gonna be like, yo. We'll swap it out. We'll get it done. For me, I'm lucky. I have ever a problem. I show up. I scream, Ajay, where's Ajay? Or where's Queen?
I'll be sitting in my office working out here. Oh my God, that's what's
and he locks his door. He locks his door. If he hears me coming, I'll hear his door shut, and he locks it. And he makes me knock like I'm a peasant.
It won't help you.
He doesn't open it. They're like, oh, Ajay's not here. I'm like, I see his goddamn car. I know he's here. But their lifetime warranty is good. Yeah, man, I look forward to you sell more. I want to know what my dealer discount is. I'm gonna sell these for you. I want to make some money on these too.
On the back end, I'll let you know. All right. So it was great to see Hussain and talk to him once again.
I'm busy, so I don't come by a lot anymore.
Yeah, he's busy. He doesn't love us no more. Like,
no, it's also because you moved down 15 minutes down the road.
So he doesn't need us no more.
I don't need to rent his dyno. I haven't needed to for a while. But you also moved 15 minutes down the road. So like. When he was right down the,
he still
a 2
comes
minute
when
walk.
he needs something. So
always. Oh, I come here yesterday? I went came back pick up a pump that I just needed. I'm like, I didn't even call ahead. I just came in. So it was good. I hope this podcast does well. I hope it does better than ours. We were not consistent about it. So fingers crossed, you guys do well on it. You guys
tell Alex to start working.
Yeah, I mean. I'll come back on anytime, man. It'll be a fun podcast.
Yeah, we will. We'll keep this going.
Hopefully, people found it interesting and we didn't just go on tangents too much.
The whole point of this is, to really give some awareness and not just awareness, just talk about and educate people on things. Bring some people who are knowledgeable like you, and get more involved with the physics and the engineering behind most of this stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I'm curious to see how people respond to my comments about none of the B58 tuners have tuned a VR30. I'm probably gonna piss someone off who's gonna go pick up a VR30 tomorrow to tune, but
that's your trend. We welcome. This is what I said when he walked in. He has a big personality, and there you go.
I mean, I never say anything directly to people. I don't call people out like that.
No, you can be a little cocky when you know your shit. So
I mean, we're not the biggest VR30 tuner for nothing. So
true. Yeah. But anyway, stay tuned for the next episode. We'll have someone interesting. We haven't decided, but it'll be launching pretty soon.
Hell yeah! Look forward to watching the next episode because I'm not going to listen to myself talk for an hour.
Okay.
Cool.
Right,